Hello and welcome to part 1 of our van build series. Earlier this year we spent 4 months converting our 2010 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter into our home on wheels. So first a little background on the actual van itself and our circumstances when we went to buy it. So we'd lost everything including our old van, and we ended up having to move to Darwin and get a job there and rush to build this thing out.
Hi. We have been saving for the last couple of months since we drowned our last van, our precious Delica, and we've been working really hard. We've saved up for a new van, so we're about to embark on a new build, which is super exciting. It's the long wheelbase and it's about 4.3 meters in the cargo space, so significantly bigger than we had last time, so we've got a lot more room, which is excellent. And today is day 1. We've had the van for almost 2 weeks now, and we're super excited to get started.
This was the most suitable van that we could find, and it was literally the only one on Facebook Marketplace or anywhere that we could look for. Unfortunately, we did have to spend $2,000 more because we were under a time crunch to buy it, and it ended up being a little bit of a lemon.
Big bit of a lemon.
We have started cleaning it up. We had a few issues with the roof that we've had to sort out. We didn't notice when we bought it, but someone had cut a whole panel out and one of the support beams as well. So it's actually some extra work that we weren't anticipating that's taken a bit longer. Oh my god, such a pain.
Ryan then got to work on the big hole in the roof while I cleaned out the side trims and sealed those up.
So whenever we picked it up, it was raining, and the whole roof in the van had been carpeted, so the roof, you couldn't see anything on it basically. But we noticed that there was a few drips coming through, so when we started to investigate it, one of the ribs that was going across the roof was actually soft, so we pulled the carpet off and seen that it was like built up with foam, and behind that there was a really big patch in the roof. So someone has cut it out. I think it was 600mm by 800mm, so there must have been some sort of air conditioner or some big appliance in the roof, but they'd cut the hole out and replaced it with a steel panel, and they'd riveted the steel panel onto the roof, but it hadn't even catched at the back, so they just filled the gaps up with silicone. It was an absolute mess. It was leaking. Yeah, it just needed completely removed. Had to drill out all the original rivets. To get a proper clamp on it, I wanted to use bolts this time, but because the ribs in the roof are up and down, maybe 15mm, I've done a bit of research, and apparently the best stuff to use on it is butyl tape. So it's like a really sticky rubber tape, and you can stack it up on top of each other to make the surface level. So stripped all the original silicone off, buffed the roof down, painted all around the holes. So there was, in one side of the roof hole, there was 20 holes, and they weren't lined up or anything. They were like someone had just drilled and drilled and drilled. It was an absolute mess. So got it all cleaned up, painted again, got it layered up with the butyl tape so that it was all even, and when you set the panel on it was nice and flush, and then tightened it all down, sealed up all the holes, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, all of that stuff had to be done before we could even start the process of converting the van, because that was an absolute nightmare to deal with, and otherwise we'd just be dealing with leaks further down the track.
So when I was up on the roof too, I noticed that in the roof rails, there was a few parts there that were pretty rusty. So I got up with a wire wheel, buffed all those down. Some of them actually did go right through, tiny holes in through the roof. So took all them back, rust treated them, covered it in butyl tape, and then we actually ended up putting a steel channel to act as a roof rack in the roof rail, so that's all sealed up now.
Yeah. So something I noticed a lot of people were doing when I was going through YouTube and having a look at the Sprinter vans is people were talking about the side trims. So this black section along here would be leaking, and we really didn't want to have to be driving through water or through rainy conditions for a long time and then have water slowly be seeping in through the door trims and then affecting all of our insulation and causing mold and all that kind of thing. So what I did was instead of just removing the trims and having to try and find new plastic what are those things called?
Just plastic clips. They
Plastic
break all
clips.
the time when you pull them off.
Yeah, we'd have
So-
to buy new ones, and that was going to be a nightmare again to try and find those, or even to go into town because we lived an hour and a half away from anything at the time. So I just went around, tidied them up, and just sealed them up with some sealant.
All the panels on the inside of the van, on the doors and stuff, were all stripped off, so it was pretty easy to get in behind and like just seal up the back of the clips.
Yeah, so once the hole was finally sorted, 2 more holes were cut to install the ventilation fans. We chose the Max Air fans at the time because of the rain sensor. In a later video, things that we would change about our van, you'll hear a bit more about the Max Air fans then.
Not a huge fan of them.
No, not at all. But yeah, so one thing about the NT is when we were there trying to build this, it was wet season, unfortunately. We didn't really have a choice in that matter. So to cut the holes in the roof after patching one up and then trying to make sure that raw steel got a coat of protection and then have enough time to dry all in the same day was really difficult, because by around midday to 2 o'clock every single day it would start raining, and it was so humid anyway.
Yeah.
41 degrees. It's hot.
It was so hard for anything to dry.
So I had to do one fan one day, and then the next day I do another fan. Couldn't do them on the same day, even though there would have been enough time in the day, but just because of the rain.
So the next thing to tackle was the floor, which is absolutely battered. So today what we're going to do is, as you can see, the floor's pretty rough. And as you can see, because it was a cargo van, I'll take you around this side. So much fun working in such a tight space. Yeah, so because it was a cargo van, the floor's very bent as well, so we've got a bit of a method to kind of combat that when we put the ply down for the flooring. But for now, what we're going to focus on today is just getting rid of all this surface rust. So I've got the wire wheel on the drill and just another wire brush, and we'll go over that today. And then I don't know why, but the floor has all of these holes in it, like as you can see, it's, you know, my whole fingertip in there, but I don't know how many there are. There's probably between 20 and 30. So we're going to have to seal all of those up as well, and then we'll give it a bit of a paint, just with some enamel paint over those rusty spots. And yeah, that'll probably take the whole day before it starts raining again. We'll just shut it up for the night and let it dry. Hopefully it does dry by the morning, because it's just so humid here. Again, we use the wire wheel attachments on the drills to get rid of all the mess on the floor, and there are a heap of holes as well, so we tidied up around those.
Too far gone, look.
Oh, that's bad.
It's only been gnarly. Not much better.
They're both the same brand.
Better not be.
So much to do. Then we swept it out again and wiped down everything with terps. And then there was one job left to do, and that was to seal up all those huge holes in the floor.
Blocking up 20,000 holes with some dickhead drilled in the floor for some unknown reason.
So he's just using butyl tape.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There's honestly about 50.
I estimated 20 to 30 before. So before putting the insulation in, I watched another video which I thought was a really good idea. Someone else was doing this. So Ryan is 6 foot, and we wanted to make sure he could stand up in there comfortably without his head hairs touching the ceiling.
Basically, instead of putting the wooden battens on the bottom of the steel ribs, we put them on the side. So
Next to them.
yeah, so they were flush with the side. So it meant we had somewhere to screw our roof panels into that wasn't the van, but we didn't lose any height.
Yeah. And the ceiling is curved as well, so you'll see in this video here that we had to prop up the middle so that those battens would curve with the van.
Hey again, we're on day who knows what of this build because we've been away for work and had a few issues with rain and stuff, so they haven't really been full days anyway. But we're moving tomorrow, which will be good because we can't really work in these conditions anymore. Yesterday Ryan finished off more of the wiring, well, not finished off, he just kind of threaded more through so we could get started on some of the insulation today. We've still got a bit more framing and stuff to do, so we can't finish it, but it's going well. He's just threaded some stuff through. We had to remove this step here so we could put some along here and then have it come through down there because our battery and stuff will be over here in a bit of a box. We just didn't want it all the way at the back like most people do because it just means running longer wires to get to the van battery and stuff like that. Anyway, today we're going to start insulating. We've got this stuff. We couldn't get our hands on earth wool, which is what we actually wanted. NT results, of course. We couldn't get it. It's not available. Not in the thickness we wanted anyway. So we got this stuff. This is it here, Bradford Gold. And it says made from 65% recycled glass. So we've got 2 big bags like this, and hopefully that should do the whole van. We don't want to get itchy, hence the high vis today.
Not good in this weather.
No. The temperatures are just going to vary so much, we need to make sure it is insulated. Anyone who's in Australia and is doing a van and thinks they don't need it insulated is absolutely crazy, I think.
So the insulation was surprisingly easy and fun to do. To install all the, I think it was recycled glass bats, that only took us maybe 40 minutes, and they're really easy to cut. You just cut them to the right shape and
You can almost just pull them apart.
yeah. And then we wanted to make sure we got up in all underneath through the channels in the van as well. So shoving it all up in there. But yeah, that only took us about 40 minutes.
Shove it up in there.
And then another 30 minutes to line the walls and the back doors with this 4mm foil / bubble insulation. So most people buy too much of this, so a lot of the time you might be able to get away with finding some offcuts or even whole rolls on Facebook Marketplace.
We needed about 35 square meters, I think, and I bought one roll which was 28 square meters, and then when I went to the warehouse to pick it up, I just asked the guy did they have any more, and he had, I think I got another 20 square meters that just came as packing for other things that they had delivered, and he gave it to me, no problem. It was slightly different stuff, but it didn't really matter.
Yeah, we still end up with way too much in the end anyway, so we were able to sell that on. But yeah, if you're lucky, you'll find some on Facebook Marketplace. For us to find insulation in Darwin was 3 days of research, trying to look for it, because there's just not much available up there at all.
And getting something that size posted to NT was like $250.
Yeah, it was,
So you're spending $200 on a roll of insulation and then $250 to get it posted up.
yeah, it was insane. The insulation was the last job we did before moving house, so we could be under better conditions and actually have cover to be able to do it, because we realised there was no way we were going to finish the van in 4 months, living and working where we were. So these are our top tips for this stage of the build. Number 1, before you start building, know where your battery setup is going to be. Your battery, your inverter, your charger, whatever you're going to use, whatever your electrical setup involves, and know how much room it's going to take up as well.
And also how much room the wiring's going to take up, because if your house battery's in one location, you're going to have wires coming from the car battery, and then you're going to have all the wires going out all to your other appliances, so to your fridge, your lights, fans, like all that's going to be in the one area. And also it needs like pretty chunky fuses and stuff close to it, so just allow a decent amount of space to house all that stuff.
Yeah, and a bit of airflow as well if you've got the inverter in there especially. Number 2 is ensure you sort out any rust problems before you go cutting anything. So check all your walls, your ceiling, your floor, everything. Just make sure you sort out the rust, because you don't want to be having to pull things out once you've done your build in 6 months' time and realize that all your floor's falling apart. Number 3 is, I didn't even read it yet. Oh yeah.
Look at this pump here.
Oh! Wow! There's a bird in the van. There's a currawong. They're so bad here because always stealing food and stuff. They're really game, hey? Did he get anything?
No, he's trying to get the kiwi.
Ah. Good eye. He's whinging at you now. So number 3 is, after installing your fan and letting everything dry and settle, do a leak test. So if it hasn't been raining, go and run a hose over the top of your van at all different angles. That way you can know whether you've sealed it up properly or not, because you don't want to get down the track, or you don't want to install your beautiful timber ceiling and then have to pull it down later because it's leaking.
Yeah, we didn't do this in the last van, and
Yeah.
the roof fan leaked, and the hole where the solar cable came through into the van, it also leaked, and we didn't find out until it was really torrential rain
And we were
for
already
5 days, and it didn't even stop long enough to dry up to seal the hole. So I actually had to buy this stuff that you could put on a wet leak to fix it, and it was a nightmare. So test it.
definitely test it. Actually, we're pretty lucky in that van too, because we used XPS board as our as our insulation instead of like a wool or a recycled glass bat, so it didn't absorb the moisture as much as what something like that would have. So I was pretty lucky. That concludes part 1 of our van build series, and hope to see you in the next one.